Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video because I do have a bonus pair in store. But yeah, guys, we'll go through my trades for the week first and then progress into the analysis shortly after. So if there is a particular pair you want to see, feel free to jump ahead using the timestamps below. But I had two positions this week. One on pound yen, which I'm still currently in. Not moving too well. Prices are in some drawdown, or relative to my trade anyway, we're in some drawdown here. But originally got into the trade on Thursday. I wasn't actually expecting this setup to materialize coming into the week. I was looking for price to break through the highs there and pull back. I was explaining that on my last weekly analysis video, but I wasn't too sure price would do that all within 1 week, but we did. And I hopped into some buys on Thursday, had some nice momentum in my direction, just missed out on my take profit one by like less than a pip, or about a pip. This was my first take profit where I was going to take some partials off and go break even. But to be honest, even if it did hit that level, I probably would have eventually gone break even, but I probably wouldn't have taken partials at that level because this was like 2-3 a.m., which is when I'm sleeping. So if it hit that level at that time and I woke up around here, I would probably not take partials, but I probably still would go break even and just protect my risk. But anyway, we missed it by like a pip, and now obviously after NFP, price is now coming back into that area. So we'll discuss pound yen in a bit more detail when we take a look at it later in the video, but I'm still currently holding that position. And Euro Swiss end up in a loss this week as well. Price came into a very nice area of confluence, looked to go short, had a nice entry signal on the hourly chart, but price fell to continue in my direction. We did have a really nice drop to the downside on the hourly, but in hindsight, maybe I was a little bit too aggressive for my take profit. I was looking for price to come back into these lows before I was going to go to break even and take some partials. In hindsight, I could have been a bit more conservative and looked at this area for my first TP to go break even and take some partials. So again, it could be hindsight coming into play, but maybe I could have managed that trade a little bit better. According to my plan, I didn't do necessarily anything wrong, but maybe I could have managed that trade a little bit better and gone break even there, and took some partials off rather than trying to push it down to the lows immediately. But other than that, followed the plan, nice area of confluence, just didn't hold. So yeah, one loss, and could be a loss in pound yen as well, but currently just still holding that position. So we'll see how that goes. But next week is looking pretty good, so let's see if we can turn things around. But we'll start with Euro USD like always. So Euro USD for me is in kind of a weird place right now. For me, it's still holding a key area of resistance with that trend line and this broken support level there as well. So I'm not looking at buys for Euro USD just yet. We are still technically bullish on the higher time frames, high, low, high, possible new lows. So we are still seeing this uptrend here intact, and you can see we are still placing higher lows there. So long term, or at least on the daily time frame, I am bullish on Euro. However, coming into this area on the full H, which is the time frame that I'm normally focused on to trade, I don't want to be looking at buys at this moment in time, and potentially we could actually see another continuation to the downside. So for me, for Euro, this is going to be my area of focus, because if we throw some wicks to the upside, maintain that on Monday, I do think we could see some downside for Euro USD back into the lows, and potentially this area here on the left as well, which is our price swing low on the daily. However, if we just break straight through on Monday and clear the trend line as well, then I do think we're going to see the next bullish wave to the upside. You look for some retest and continuation, and we've got lovely targets here. That's a nice target there. That's also a nice target. The highs are a target as well. So there's multiple targets you can choose if we do get that break and retest going. So for Euro USD, I would say I'm quite neutral, because although the high time frames are bullish, the full H for me is still bearish, so it's a bit contradictory there. So I want to make sure I can get as much confidence on my trade as possible. So I would preferably like the full H to line up with the daily too. So I'm not the biggest fan of these shorts here, but if you do throw some wicks there could still be a nice intraday position. If you do break through, the trend line and break through the resistance level, then we're in line with the daily again, and the break and retest do look pretty attractive after that. So for me, I'm kind of just waiting for a bit more information for Euro in terms of how we react to this level, because again, we just came in there just before the week ended. So I want to see what we do during the London session, doing New York. If we can start holding that, then like I said, shorts do look good. But if you just break through, then the buyers are back in town basically, and we'll be looking for some long opportunities to take it back up to one of these areas, depending on the risk reward and the entry. But for now, just focused on this 1.10367 level. If we hold shorts, if we break through, looking at some longs next week. Okay, so onto dollar yen. So very bullish this week until maybe the last couple of days or so, but nonetheless, we did see some nice upside breaking through the highs here. We were looking for breaks and retests of this level for continuations back to 144,500. Didn't quite see that happen, neither with the break and retest or hitting that 145 level up there. Market is starting to struggle, but on the higher time frames, I'm still very bullish on dollar yen. We are still printing these higher highs and higher lows here, so I cannot be looking for sells just yet. And for me, I'm still focused on the buys. So my next area of interest, as this level looks like it's failing, unless we start holding on to that next week, is probably this level here. We do have the 50% on the Fibonacci just below this level as well. So you might see an instance where price does wick slightly below it to tag the 50. But I do really like this level here. Again, was the prior resistance, sent us to the downside. Could be now turn support to send us back up again. So for me, dollar yen still giving us major higher lows on the higher time frames. 4H as well. Low down there, high, low, higher, high. So I still do like the buys on dollar yen as well. So 141,500. 141, 250 we'll call it. It's still a very nice place if you're looking for some longs, of course, waiting for some entry signals, and again taking it back to resistance, back to highs, then potentially even 145 if you want to stretch the trade a little bit further. But from the technical side of things, everything is still pretty bullish with dollar yen. There is some red flags that the market is starting to print some lower highs. So we've got the high up there, another lower high, potentially another lower high. So maybe it's the start of a reversal, but again, I need a lot more evidence than that before I actually look for sales myself and anticipate the reversal. I need to see some major lows being taken out and some more consistent low highs as well. So for now, still focus on the longs for dollar yen. Keep an eye on 141, 250 for some buys, and back up to the highs at 143 and then potentially 145 as well. Okay, so on to USD CAD. So USD CAD very bullish this week. Really nice move to the upside. This is what we were looking for. Again, we were talking a lot about the weekly time frame last week, past couple of weeks actually. As you can see, mapping in this trend line here, a lot of wicks into the level, a lot of wicks into the trend line, sorry. Wicks there, and again, numerous wicks coming into the trend line recently. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and with this candle here, 7. So the market's looking very, very bullish now with this shift in momentum. Strong bullish engulfing. So I'm expecting to see this momentum sustain and probably push back into the resistance here around 135, 400 is more or less where that level starts. So I'm looking for a continuation back to that area from a weekly perspective. So if we take that information into the 4H, we can expect more upside past these highs here. However, of course, we are coming into a strong level of resistance, so there is some room for retracement. If dollar CAD wants to retrace, would actually be very welcomed if it does retrace, because I'm still looking for buys at 1.326. Didn't quite get the entry this week. This happened during when the daily candle closure was closing, and I don't normally look at the trade at the market at that time, so I didn't take any entries there. But if it does retrace again, I'm still looking for some buys. You can see the market is printing these higher lows. I do think we can print another one back at this level at 1.326. If not, then possibly you could be looking for the break and retest of this area here, a nice breakout, some pullbacks, retest some structure, and look for the buys there accordingly. So for me, for dollar CAD, still very, very bullish on this pair. I really like the price action on the higher time frame, strong weekly bullish engulfing. There's a good chance we're going to see the next couple of weeks push to the upside. Maybe there might be a doji, then maybe next week's bullish, or this week's bullish and next week's a doji. But there's a good chance we'll see some upside from the weekly time frame. So on the lower time frames, basically anything below the weekly, you're predominantly just looking for buy positions to take the market higher, and we've got a good chance of getting back to that weekly zone there at 1.354. So either waiting for a break and retest or a pullback onto this level. It's up to the market which one we get, but yeah, definitely looking at some buys next week for USD CAD. Okay, so on to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound for me still very, very choppy. Again, pretty much just consolidation here on the 4H time frame. Not a big fan of this price action. On the daily, however, there is a slight downtrend at play, as we can see with the lower highs there. So I do favor shorts, but as we can see on the left, the market is still kind of fading at this level here. So which is kind of what's causing the consolidation. So for me, for Euro Pound, in my personal trade, I'm kind of backing away and waiting for more evidence of a trend to to cement itself here on the 4H. If I can see the market start creating some lower lows and lower highs, then yeah, I'll get into some shorts. If I see the market do the opposite, then of course I'll get into some longs there. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for myself. But if you are looking to trade Euro Pound a little bit more eager, then we are coming into a very nice level where potentially some sells look good and some buys if you do have a breakout. So if you do break through the resistance here, this level here at 0.864, there's a pretty high chance we'll probably make it back into this area up there. So on the lower time frames, if you're looking at maybe the hourly 30-minute, because risk reward might not be the best if you're using anything higher, we've got about 39-40 pips there to the upside. So you want to focus on the lower time frames for your entries. But if you do see a break and retest of 0.864, back to the highs there, looks pretty likely for a continuation to the swing high. At the same time, the market is firing a lot of wicks as well. So if we can see that maintain coming into Monday London session, there could be some nice shorts early on, looking for a move to the downside, back into these lows, and potentially see that higher time frame downtrend, which we discussed on the daily chart, come back into play as well. So I can see Euro Pound do both possible moves, which is another reason why I'm kind of staying out. When I'm taking my trades, I want to make sure that the move that I'm taking, whether it's a long position or a short position, is a very obvious trade, and it's kind of hard for me to see the opposite way. So I want to make sure that the direction I'm trading has a lot of confluence for it, whereas this, I can see confluence for both directions, therefore I'm staying away. But if you're looking to trade Euro Pound next week, then I would suggest stay focused on this area here. It's a big level, and if price breaks here, we've got a pretty good probability of continuing higher. Same thing with the shorts as well. But yeah, I'll be staying away from Euro Pound for now. But if you are looking at it, keep an eye on 0.864. So yeah, that's what I'm favoring next week for Euro Pound. Okay, so on to AUD USD. So for this one, we have seen some really nice downside this week. We had a nice retest of this level here. We were looking for some shorts on the retest of this level. However, it did occur during the Asian session, which is when I'm sleeping. So I did miss out on this opportunity, but nonetheless, a lovely move to the downside, clearing out some lows here on the left. So I do still favor more downside for AUD USD. Again, the long-term bias of shorts back to these lows here, I think is full. Is very much underway, back down to 0.62. Again, next major target will be this support level here, which we just missed on Thursday before pulling back up. But for me, all the rallies we see, all the upside we see, we're predominantly just looking for lower highs for the market to come back down. So for me, as a swing trader, I'm pretty much just focused on the shorts for the time being for AUD/USD until something maybe drastic happens, we break some structure, go into the upside. So of course, if that happens, I will look to pivot. But right now, the shorts look very clean for me, and the higher time frames agree as well. So next week, expecting more downside. It looks like we're having a retest of this level at the moment. So we could just see the market fall, but we may come back for another retest before the decline. There's also this level here just above it as well, which I'm also looking at around 0.663, which looks like a great place for some shorts. Possibly might see another leg higher before we do sell off again. If I whip out the Fibonacci from the high to the low, you can see it does line up with the 50% there. So we do have an incentive to head a little bit higher before we do see some downside, but of course it will be up to AUD/USD itself where we go. But in terms of the direction, in terms of the bias, very much shorts. Still seeing consistent lower highs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 potentially, or at least somewhere around there. We'll look for some shorts. So in terms of structure, is very clear. We've just taken out some major lows there as well, and we've got a lovely target there to aim for next week. And then long term, we'll look at 0.62 as well. So just looking for that next lower high. Let's hope we can see a bit more upside before we decline next week. But could be some shorts early on with AU next week. Okay, so over to NZD CAD. So NZD CAD looking at some more downside for this one as well. We were looking at some shorts coming into the week, still having targets back down at these lows at 0.804. We did have a nice area of confluence here, looking for the break and retest of this level, looking for that next lower high, again connecting the dots. One there, second one there, third one, looking at a fourth. We just kind of missed the trend line, but we did spike into the level. But again, I didn't really see a nice shift in momentum, so there was no entries for me. However, I'm still looking at some shorts for this one. We're still printing lower highs, and I'm looking at another one forming around here. We've got a beautiful level of support here, which gave us this beautiful move there to the upside. Now turning resistance, already a nice wick there to the upside. But again, this occurred late into Friday, so I'm not looking at some shorts there until Monday. So I will keep an eye on NZD CAD to see what we can do here coming into early next week. But still looking at shorts, as long as we maintain these lower lows and lower highs, this here is still my target. We do have some strong support down here, so I would watch out and maybe look at some partials around here, or at least maybe moving your stop loss to break even, managing the trade, because again, we have a 1, 2, 3, many wicks into that level. So this could prove to be strong support and could send the market back up again and reverse. Again, with my bias, it's all about probabilities. From a probabilistic standpoint, we are likely to head lower, but we definitely could go up. So we do have to factor that into our trade to make sure we're trading accordingly. So yeah, looking at some shorts from 0.816, 817 ish, and targets back down to these prior lows here at 0.81. But eventually I'm expecting 0.04. So that will be the plan next week for NZD CAD. Okay, so on to pound NZD. So pound NZD still consolidation this week. In fact, we had some consolidation kind of within the consolidation. Just very choppy price action from pound NZD recently, and this week especially as well. But the idea and the analysis still remains the same. The market's still giving us very slight increase in price with all of these higher lows here. So you can see that the market is slowly building up to the upside and kind of getting ready to blow its top there. So I do expect more upside for pound NZD and finding a break of 2.089. But until we get that, I'm kind of just staying away. So this week, I wouldn't recommend trading unless we really pulled away. Yes, we did see a slight breakout there, but again, with my breakouts, I want to see price really push away from the level to really confirm to us that, okay, that level is well and truly broken and we've got a lot of room to play with for some pullbacks. I want to see pricing push maybe to at least 2.1 first before I consider looking for some pullbacks to go long. But as you can see, many wicks there to the upside this week, so overall price was just sideways. But if we can clear the level aggressively, we can look for some pullbacks and then look for some continuations, and again anticipate the next higher low in this sequence here. So pound NZD for me is still bullish on the high time frames, even though we are very choppy. If the market becomes bearish and just kind of folds in on itself and starts falling back down here, I'll stay away. I've got the low of the consolidation around 2.05, so anything kind of within this area here is just kind of rubbish to me. So I won't be looking at any positions at all in this area. If we start breaking lower and break through some major levels like these here, then yeah, some pullbacks after that will probably capture my interest, because that could be a nice little reversal. But at this point, we're a long away from that. So still focused on the longs there for pound NZD, waiting for a break and retest of 2.09 there. And then again with the targets, like I said, there's no kind of real target to aim for on the left, apart from maybe the top of these wicks, but again they're more or less around 2.1 anyway. And we've got the wick all up there, 2.175, which is pretty far. So like I said last week and the week before, just use the psychological levels as targets: 2.1, 2.105, 2.11, or maybe some tools, some indicators could help with that. But there's no kind of clear structural target to aim for. So the next best thing is probably some indicators or just using the psychological levels. But the thesis for next week is definitely some longs on a break and retest of 2.09. Okay, so on to CAD yen. So CAD yen failed to break through the highs this week. Well, we did break through, but it just didn't sustain the highs and really pull away, similar to what dollar yen did. I was looking for kind of CAD yen and dollar yen to do similar things. Dollar yen really broke through and got that retracement in, whereas CAD yen kind of broke through, kind of flirted with the idea of really trying to break out and continue that bullish path, but came back underneath and actually retested it for some sales to go further to the downside. So CAD yen for me is starting to shape up more like consolidation than anything, with the equal highs there failing to break through, and potentially could be seeing price coming back into 104,500, especially with this double bottom here there and continuous support breaking on the low time frames as well. So for me, I'm not a big fan of CAD yen anymore. I am still bullish on the pair, given high time frame structure and what the high time frames are doing. But the fact that we are moving sideways does mean that I will be looking to step back from CAD yen and just wait for some more information, a bit more a bit more clarity with the trend. Because if we do start clearing out these lows here, then I'll gladly start looking for some sells. Likewise for the buys as well. You know, if we did what I expected to happen this week, then some pullbacks on there does look good for some longs, at least back to the highs there at 109,500. So CAD for me, I'll be staying away. If you're looking for some opportunities, then I would wait for price to come a lot lower, back down to the 104,500 mark for some longs. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a full swing back to the highs there for it to be a successful trade. You can look at 50%. There's some areas here you could look at around 105,850, resistance there, support there. This could be a nice little level as the kind of mid-range of the consolidation for a nice target, or you can look at the full swing. But at the moment for me, CAD looks like it is consolidating, so I'll be stepping back from the pair. But if you are looking at getting involved, 104,500 looks the most sensible place, because you can get a nice little stop loss below it. Anything within that is kind of a little bit tricky, but down there you can get some nice safe bets in. So CAD consolidation for me will be stepping back, but if you are looking for some longs, keep an eye out on 104,500. Okay, so onto pound USD. So pound USD, my analysis for this one and euro has been pretty similar. For euro, looking at a big pullback and some sells. Pound USD, again, I was looking at a big pullback into this area and then some sells. Both kind of played out very similar in terms of they both did roll over, but didn't quite see as a big of a pullback as I expected to see. But did see some nice downside anyway. But I do think there's still some short opportunities left for pound USD, similar with euro as well. We're still obeying some really nice resistance, holding some good areas of confluence. So if we can maintain this area 1.28 going to next week, I do think some shorts do look good. However, if we do start breaking through, break and retest, clear the trend line and the support level, resistance level, sorry, and I do favor some more upside. And similar to euro, there's multiple targets we can look to aim for. 1.3 back to the highs here if we wanted to, 1.315. So the buys do look good above 1.28, because on the daily time frame we are still pretty consistent with the higher lows here. This could be potentially another one, although we have broken through this daily trend line here. So it has lost a little bit of confluence there. So I do think maybe this could be the time for a bit of a reversal, but obviously only time will tell. So with pound USD, I'm short biasing on the 4H time frame. If we do hold this level here at 1.28, then some sells do look good. Again, being a little bit conservative because the higher time frames are still bullish. So sells back into that level there, probably max as far as I'd push it. This support level looks reasonable as well. But if we do break above 1.28, clear the trend line as well, then we know the 4H is back in line with the daily time frame. So buys do look good after that. So keep an eye on the retest of 1.28 as well for some long positions. But at the moment, we're still respecting, or at least still trading underneath 1.28. So the sales do look half decent, and expecting price to drop back into 1.26 if we reject 1.28 up there. So this is kind of the pivotal point where I'm looking at, which is similar to Euro USD as well. We'll see what we can do Monday, Tuesday. If we can see some good rejections, some good wicks, nice shift in momentum, then yeah, the sells look good. If not, we just break straight through, then we're looking at pullbacks and continuations higher. So that will be the plan next week for pound USD. Okay, so onto pound CAD. So pound CAD is looking more like consolidation. However, the higher time frames still depict us a bullish market. As we can see here, the higher highs and higher lows still present. I did say for this week, we're looking at some buys coming back into this area here, which we just about missed. We more or less tapped the level a couple weeks ago or last week, but I was looking for us to come back in with that trendline confluence, double bottom, and then possibly look for that nice shift back to the upside, which we did kind of see, just slightly higher than where I predicted. But yeah, it does look like the market's starting to print us a higher low. Again, overall, the consolidation still quite hasn't broken out for me. I'm looking at this as the resistance here, and this is the low of the consolidation. So it does look like we're starting to break out. I'm looking at this as a big fake out of the high. But I need price to really push away a little bit further first, come back, retest it, throw some wicks to the downside, and then some longs above that look good, and possibly some targets back at the previous swing highs, 1.73004. I would also suggest looking at this high here on the left as well. That was our prior swing high before we created this one. This could be a nice little first TP, or potentially an ultimate target if you don't want to hold the trade too long. but we could be seeing a swing back to the highs if this high time frame trend does continue. So for me, for pound CAD, high time frame still favoring buys. It does look like the market is printing its next higher low. Again, we still do have consolidation, but if I do quickly go back to the daily, you can see, and let's take away the drawings, you can see it's a nice daily candle closure there. So it does look like daily starting to shift bullish again, throwing some nice wicks to the downside. But of course, I do want on the 4H time frame us to clear a little bit further first before I classify that as a breakout. Look for the retest 1.705, and then the buys do look good there. So it's up to you how far you want to push the trade. Obviously, the further it is, the less likely we are to get there, but obviously the risk reward's better, so it's up to you which way you want to balance that scale. But I would keep my eyes on 1.71, which is that price swing high, and obviously the highs there at 1.73 going into next week. Okay, so onto pound yen. So pound yen, like I said, still holding onto a long position for my trade on Thursday. We came into a very nice area of confluence with the trend line there, and also the broken support there on the left, taking that across. So we came into a nice area, got into the trade, nice move to the upside. However, momentum failed to continue, and we're coming back into that level again. So for pound yen, I need to see some more wicks into this area to show me that, okay, the market is still holding onto this level, and that we can see a nice move to the upside. If that happens, then there could be some nice longs for people looking to get involved with pound yen early next week, maybe Monday, Tuesday, for buy to the upside. If we just break through the level and crash straight through, obviously I'll take the stop loss on my trade. At that point, I will no longer be looking for any longs for pound yen, because at that point we've lost a lot of confluence, and we could be seeing price maintaining these lower lows and lower highs on the lower time frames and continue that momentum to the downside, possibly back to this support level here, that swing low, and we had that big kind of crash to the downside last week. So if you do break through 180,700, then a retest of structure does look good, and the continuations back down to the lows does look good as well. So pound yen for me does look like a good sell and a good buy as well, depending what we do for that level. If we break through, then the shorts look good on the retest, maintaining those lower highs. If we throw some wicks there to the upside, to the downside, and the buys still look good for a move to the upside, back into the resistance there. For me, in the higher time frames, pound yen I am still bullish on, but it could be coming up to that time where we're looking for potentially a reversal or maybe a deeper retracement. So I would keep my eye on this area going into next week, which is at 180,500. So for me, that's a very pivotal area, and will obviously define my trade or not, if the market holds onto the level or if it breaks through. And for people looking to get involved with pound yen, I would use that as a good judgment if you're looking to long or short. But yeah, into next week, pound yen, very pivotal area. Has some nice targets to the upside back to 182,900 and also 177,260. So we've got targets either side, just up to pound yen, whether we hold the level or we break through. So keep an eye on 180,500 going into next week. Okay, so gold is another pair coming into a very pivotal price point around 1935, 1940. If I explain to you the analysis on the daily time frame, you'll be able to see why. Again, we do have these successive high lows with gold, one over there, second over there, third, and potentially a fourth as well. And we've also got this big inverse head and shoulder pattern, left head and possible right shoulder as well, coming back to retest that prior left shoulder support, taking that cross, so potentially that right shoulder could form there and possibly continue higher. So there's some confluence there for gold to head higher from a higher time frame perspective. We've got a bullish trend, markets coming to the trend line, also retesting that right shoulder support level. We could see that form and possibly price continue higher. At the same time as well, if you go to the lower time frames, you can see price is also pretty consistent with these lower highs here. So gold on the 4H, which again is the time frame I look to trade on, the 4H is definitely bearish. So I'm not looking to jump into any longs, even though that we are coming to a nice area of confidence on the higher time frames. I'm very much waiting for price to start breaking higher, give me some higher highs and higher lows, and then I'll look to buy it, or even wait for price to break through the neckline, which is this resistance here at 1980. If we can break through that, retest it, that for me looks like a very, very good buy, because again, I'm focusing on quality over quantity. If we can get that, that'll be a solid buy to take. And of course, we can go very, very far with gold, possibly back to the all-time highs at 2050, 2060. So that looks like a good buy to me. That's kind of what I'm waiting for. At the same time, if we don't hold this level, break through, then some shorts look equally as good as the buys. We can probably be pushing back down to the swing lows down here at 1890. And if we break through the trend line and the support level there, we lose 2 confluences. I would expect this kind of bearish trend, this intra-week bearish trend to continue. And we could be seeing price coming back to the swing lows there. This could just be another lower high relative to the high up there. And we could be seeing price revisit the support level there at 1890. 1895 more or less. So this is where the pivotal area lies for me, because at the moment gold's kind of like consolidating. It's wicked lower, it's also pushing higher as well, so it's kind of doing a good job at stopping people out to the downside and to the upside. So gold for me, I'm not looking too much into the price action right now. Yes, it's definitely holding the level, but the key thing I want to see is the higher highs and higher lows start to develop, and then I'll be looking to get in on some of these swing lows to buy it back up again. Same thing to the downside. If you can break through, come back for the retest, then the lower highs will become my my go-to for some shorts on a retest or some structure. Then of course we got some nice levels there to target down at 1895 as well. So gold does have a lot of potential. Again, whether we're buying or selling, there's a lot of room to play with, so risk reward looks good in both directions. So yeah, not really too fast which way gold pans out, but I just want to wait for a bit more clarity before I take any positions. So keep an eye on 1935 for gold. If we do break through, we're looking at 1895. If we do hold, start printing some higher highs and higher lows, we're looking at 1980 first, and then eventually 2050 coming back to the highs all the way up there. So some really nice opportunities coming up for gold. Okay, so Bitcoin up next. So Bitcoin has been quite choppy, but I still do have a bearish bias for it, looking at pushing to 28,400. We have cleared out of this support level here, breaking out the consolidation at around 3,800. Had a nice retest as well this week, and I'm looking at push back into 28,250, 28,400 this week, then possibly some longs from that level. You can see we have been pretty clear with the lower highs here. One over there. Oh, that's the wrong tool. So one over there, second over there, third, fourth. Potentially could see another push to the upside, fifth, and get the drop to the downside there. We do have a nice support level, turn resistance here on the 4H. So we could see a spike back into 29,500, then possibly look for a move to the downside. And again, this is where you're looking for your entries. If you're not already in the trade, then now's not the best time to enter. But we've got some lower time frame support all across here, but you can see all these wicks here. This is not a good time to be looking to short Bitcoin. But if we do see another push higher, this could be a nice little place to short and anticipate another leg lower. And then of course, coming to this area, we can study price action and possibly might see a nice buyback up again. So for Bitcoin, still bearish for now. This week, pretty much just consolidation, but if you do see another stab higher, which Bitcoin often does do, that could be a nice opportunity to go short, take advantage of the bearish leg, and then possibly some longs down here. We could go further as well, but this is our first obstacle on our way, so we're going to study price action when we get there, and then we can make some decisions when we're there. But for now, still looking at a drop lower, dive lower, back into 28,400, and possibly some longs later on. And last but not least, we've got our bonus pair US30. So for US30 going into next week, we are still looking at a bit more downside for this one. We've had a very impressive bullish leg to the upside, back into some resistance here on the left on the higher time frames. But again, I really do like the price action with this one. Very confident breakout, even on the weekly. We've kind of got a big inverse head and shoulder pattern here. If I point it out with the left shoulder there, the head down there, the right shoulder here, and now we've got the breakout. So possibly could be looking at a retest of this structure, 34,500 we'll call it, for some continuation, possibly back to the highs there on the left. So we've got a nice bearish engulfing there on the weekly. That could be the catalyst for more downside for the next week or two. Then we can judge price action when we're here for a bigger move high. So that's the plan from a higher time frame perspective. Going to the 4H time frame, you can see we've got some equal highs here, market failing to continue the trend. Then we saw a really nice move to the downside, clearing out these lows this week, giving us some new lows below that, then another pullback, retesting some structure here, giving us another lower high, and then again breaking to the downside. So it does look like from a 4H perspective as well, we've gone from a bullish trend of consistent higher highs and higher lows to failing at creating new highs to some lower lows and now some lower highs. So looking at another pullback and a continuation to the downside back to that weekly level. If I just draw it in, not too sure why I deleted it. but let's draw it back in. There we go. So we could be looking at a push for 34,600 as potential targets, but again, you don't need to hold the trade that far. So going into next week, if I drop to the hourly time frame, you can see here, this is our swing high, this is our swing low potentially, or if we do push further, you can, you know, alter the Fibonacci. But more or less, we are looking at some pullbacks back into this area here. Beautiful support there, it lines up with the 50%. And if we do push further, it might come into the 0.618, but more or less into some nice fib levels. We're looking at another pullback, another lower high, and then some shorts to the downside for US30. So keep an eye on this opportunity here. Risk reward looks very, very good as well. And could be seeing a push back down to 34,600, sorry. And then possibly some longs when we get there back up again. But for now, we'll just focus on this opportunity with those equal highs. And oh, that's horrendous. With those equal highs, what is going on? There we go, with those equal highs, and now the first lower high and potentially the second as well. So yeah, favor some shorts back down to 34,600 next week. So yeah, guys, that sums up the video. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you have found it useful, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content on the channel. Make sure you do hit the bell so you don't miss out on any uploads or streams in the future. Let me know if you want to see a particular pair on the bonus pair for next week or just in general. But thank you so much for watching the video, guys. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all next week.